Hello, and welcome to this week's Movie Math, where, what the heck? Not only did the boycott against Scream 7 fail to materialize, but the movie actually went in the other direction to deliver a franchise best, and also a year-to-date best in terms of opening weekends. What the heck? The audience score is not even very good. In fact, Scream 7 is tied with Scream 4 for the worst cinema score for the franchise. So again, I ask, what the heck happened? I have some theories, which we're going to discuss. But I saw, when I dropped my review, I saw, some of you were still very yay Scream, but I saw a couple of you were planning to boycott. I even saw a couple of you go, oh no, Grace, don't support this movie. And some of you went, please support this movie. I mean, maybe all that chatter helped Scream at the end of the day. But I do wonder if you had thought you or planned to boycott Scream 7, did you cave over the weekend? Were you like, I can't resist the party? Because it did seem like a party at the multiplex. And we're going to talk about that as well. So why do you think so many people went to see Scream 7 more than ever have before in an opening weekend? And look at this. The Black audience skyrocketed for this movie compared to the last installment, despite not a single Black lead character. And the Black community, by the way, is extremely supportive of Palestine, which is the cause for which Barrera lost her job. So you would think that maybe there would be some more alignment there. And then also the Latino audience, by the way, who have historically been very supportive of horror films, and is also, by the way, family and animated movies. But it dropped here from the last movie. By the way, speaking of palpable energy, the trailer for Scary Movie 6 was a theatrical exclusive in front of Scream 7 this weekend. Very little discussion in the trades or any of the, the quote-unquote media. But people sure were, fans were talking about it online. I saw a lot of chatter. And people were saying such positive things about the trailer. When I went in to see Scream 7 as part of the regular movie-going audience this weekend, my friend had such a good time. She made it so much even more fun to see. It was great. I really liked experiencing it through her eyes. I mean, I had fun with it, as you know from my review, but that really was great. And I loved everybody. People in my theater got just involved enough. It was so fun to go. But they also went crazy for the Scream 6 trailer. When it started, people were like, this is it. Even I felt that way. I went to get some snacks and I came back and I was like, usually you don't care if you miss the trailers in the opening because it's always the same thing, 20 to 30 minutes of it. But here I was like, I didn't miss the Scream 6 trailer, did I? And I thought it really delivered. And of course, that has a very diverse cast. Scary Movie 6 comes out June 12th. This is interesting. And I was like, what does it go up against? Disclosure Day, which a lot of people are being very supportive of as well. I don't see it, but we'll see. But that's some tough competition. I don't know why they're in the same weekend. Why do we have this situation where there'll be like a movie desert where you're like, please, I'm parched, give me a movie. And then they're like, blah, 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 drown in movies this one weekend. And you're like, why don't you spread these things out, man? But yeah, they're going to be going up against each other. And I think Scary Movie 6 will be formidable, particularly with how well not only the horror genre is doing, but I think people, it's also a good old healthy dose of nostalgia bait. It's been over a decade since the last Scary Movie, with a lot of the original cast returning, which is great. And this is, speaking of original cast returning, it's been over a decade since the last Sidney Prescott-centric Scream movie. She skipped 6. And they made a joke about that in the Scary Movie trailer, by the way. But she was in Scary Movie 5, but it didn't revolve around her. So, pretty interesting. Are the fans correct, right? Does nostalgia bait work best when you change as little as possible? Well, once again, Star Wars fans have been screaming that until they stopped caring, right? Star Wars fans. It's been such a long, it's been a couple of minutes, but it's interesting to see how that, there's toxicity, but I also think the toxicity, blinded some people to the elements of truth within that movement, which we've always discussed, But it's just really interesting. We've seen other franchises falling to those same mistakes. And then also we see some franchises not course correcting or avoiding the mistakes that Star Wars made and benefiting for it. But someday, you know, I think that the Star Wars, well, we're still in it. I don't know when we're going to come out of it, but it's interesting. So here we have some more pretty convincing evidence about, you know, fans want what they want, how they want it, right? So not only is Sydney front and center again, but we're back in small town America. And then original Scream writer Kevin Williamson stepping up to direct here for his second time only ever. He makes Scream 7 look and feel like a traditional Scream movie. Plus, don't underestimate the importance of bringing back Matthew Lillard, used incredibly well in the film. I loved it. And Joel McHale, I think, starting to fill in for Dewey very effectively. I told that theory to my friend. She had such a good time too, as you know, and she agreed with that. And as well is also bringing back in the journalism stuff, which I loved, as I said in my review. I think, you know, Williamson, he wrote the original Scream. He created this formula. And then with the most recent films, they started to deconstruct it. You know, deconstruction has been a buzzy term in Hollywood as they try to figure out how to keep these franchises going. And I don't know. I like deconstruction. I mean, I'm a fan. I mean, I'm an Elseworlds fan. I mean, comic books have made me open to that type of storytelling. But darn it, if I didn't enjoy going back to traditional Scream. And, you know, I think The Force Awakens, which was extremely successful, was a little bit too much of a copy. But I think Jurassic World is a really good example, like this new Scream movie, of a film that brings back the elements that people liked about the franchise in the first place, while still adding other new things as well. You know, the score's not great for Scream 7, but I wonder, even though I think we would all admit that it's a weak entry in the franchise, how do you feel about the fun factor? And I wouldn't underestimate that, you know? All right, so sure, Williamson didn't stick the landing, but he did manage to deliver a Scream movie, right? And also, he was smart to keep twins Chad and Mindy, I think, to make sure that the fans of the latest movies still felt included. And here's some more evidence as to, you know, why this new latest Scream was so successful. While Scream 6's audience leaned younger, Scream 7 was the scooch older, I think, tapping into the tweens and teens who grew up with the franchise in the first place. Although Scream is very popular in replays, you know, that's one of the nice things that maybe about the horror franchise is that horror fans, unlike, you know, it's interesting. For the most part, people are very averse to classic film. But when it comes to horror, I guess because it only really started, you know, its current trend in the 70s, people are willing to go back and watch the old stuff. So they know that, you know, that's really interesting. You know, and Scream, of course, is, you know, a relatively new horror franchise. And so even if you didn't see the early films in theaters, for the most part, people have gone back and seen them in other places. I know some of you are rewatching Scream regularly, which is really great for the franchise, making it extremely valuable. And with Williamson and keeping the focus on OG Sydney and Gale, right? I don't think a lot of franchises could do that. I don't think they could have their fans want to see the older original actresses still as the leads. But I think that's attributable to the LGBTQ fan base, who are still all in on Scream, it seems, despite the treatment of Barrera, which I saw particularly from that community. A lot of people were upset about how she was treated. But still, they seems that Scream has not only reassembled itself, but kept its fandom, I think, for the most part, intact. It's really pretty impressive considering all the problems that other franchises are having these days. Are you a Scream fan? I asked you how you felt about the franchise going into the weekend. How do you feel about it coming out of opening weekend? I also think that Paramount, who is having quite the eventful week, was able to make Scream feel like an event, both by design and through luck. So even though Scream 7 wasn't shot for IMAX, this is the first movie in the franchise to play on IMAX. You know, I got distracted there for a moment because the opening shot of Scream is pretty nice. It is a really pretty shot. And by the way, I saw Scream in both IMAX and in Dolby. And I have to tell you, it looked great in both. I think I might have preferred the Dolby just a scooch more, actually, because it wasn't shot for IMAX. And Dolby was great. More comfortable seats, stuff like that. But yes, premium screens overall continue to be what helps movies feel like an event. And sure enough, 40% of Scream's opening weekend came from premium screens, with IMAX alone accounting for 5.5 million domestic and 7.1 million globally. Are there not a lot of IMAX screens outside of the United States? For those of you who aren't in the US or North America, do you not have an IMAX near you? What kind of premium screens are you watching? Build more premium screens. I shout it all the time. We keep shouting in Hollywood such obvious things. We're like, give us what we want and more premium screens. We were like, give us Brainiac, right? We were shouting it and it's not given to us. But I don't know what it's going to take to make them build more premium screens. I think they recently announced that they would. But is your local theater starting to build a premium screen? Do you see any construction? Right now, it just seems like a promise. There's only one proper IMAX in all of New York City. One! Right? It sells out like that. It's really annoying. And I've heard from some of you that you have to drive hours to get to a proper IMAX screen or even a baby IMAX. Some of you have said, is it worth the 45 to an hour and a half drive each way to go and see this latest movie? And sometimes I have to tell you, no, it is not. But that's ridiculous. At this point, if the movie theater business wants to do well, everybody should have a premium screen, at least one, that's easily accessible. You also have the return of Neve Campbell, which I think helped create that event atmosphere. And it was in the news with the boycott, right? What they always say, and I don't, some people have doubted whether or not this is still true, but the old saying used to be, there's no such thing as bad publicity. And maybe that is still true. Then there's the look. So Wuthering Heights didn't really materialize as an event. It did okay. It's actually it's right around its break-even point. But it wasn't a huge thing. It did not end up being Wuthering Heights, right? So this is the first big event movie of 2026. And also, interestingly enough, the first real nostalgia play and big sequel of the year. Audiences have been itching, right? To get to the multiplex, back to the multiplex since the holidays, right? Even during the holidays, audience was down and people, my family included, was like, I'd like to go to the movies, but there isn't anything to see. Well, Scream 7 gave people something to see, right? And I do think that with how expensive it is to go to the movies and how many demands and also other options people have these days, people want to feel like it's a relatively good chance that they're going to have a good time. And I think that that's one of the reasons that franchises and sequels and nostalgia plays are the most effective. People just aren't willing to take as much risk at the multiplex anymore. And I think the biggest part of that is cost. Why are you not an AMC or something, or whatever theater chain is near you? Why are you not a subscription member if you're not? Apparently there's lots of room for growth there, but it seems like a no-brainer for me. For the cost of one premium ticket here in New York City, I can see 4 movies a week for the cost of one premium movie a month. Again, I don't know we don't even want to question how they're making money off this because it's such an amazing deal. But it's interesting that some people were like, no, thank you. I can maybe see families it being an issue, but for the most part, I don't see how everybody doesn't have that. All right. So anyway, now the question is, with Scream 7 doing so well, is this the beginning of a spring-long rush on the multiplex, right? For all the upcoming original movies that are about to hit theaters? Or will audiences go back into hibernation until April for 1 month for the Super Mario Galaxy movie? I think it might be the latter. And then after that, Devil Wears Prada 2. What do you think? As I watched Scream 7 for the second time yesterday, and I saw Neve Campbell, towards the end of the movie when things slow down, and Neve Campbell's like, I was like, man, how much do you think she's going to get paid for the next one, right? And I thought, well, she got $7 million for Scream 7. Will she get $8 million for Scream 8? And I was like, no, I'm feeling a cool $10 million for Neve. If I were her team, I'd be like, give me $10 million. And remember, not all of that goes to Neve Campbell, but that's what I would ask for. If you were Neve Campbell's team of people representing her, what would you ask for Scream 8? Maybe I'd take 8 and a part of the gross, although Scream movies are not huge box. We'll see how this does in the long run, but I would tell Neve to take her money up front. And does Paramount keep Kevin Williamson at the helm? I think they definitely do. I'd suggested in my review, because the reviews are over. I gave it a fresh tomato, but the reviews are not good. Although some have questioned whether or not there were ulterior motives on those reviews. Because, I think critics have been, the media overall has been, I think, pretty supportive of Melissa Barrera. Although everybody loves a winner. And now that this movie is so successful and the movie industry's on the ropes, I think you're going to see a lot of people come and start to support it. Well, not critics, but I think you'll see the press start to some degree. We'll see. Also fans, what is your opinion now? But yeah, I think that this is definitely not going to go to streaming. I thought maybe the future would be a prestige streaming show on Paramount Plus, but now I'm like, it's staying in theaters. It's just like The Conjuring just got a reprieve, right? They were like, streaming series, and they said they're still going to make that, but then it made a lot of money for a horror franchise, and so they're going to make another one. But Campbell, Cox, and Williamson are going to get paid. Ka-ching! But who else do you think should stick around for Scream 8? And hey, if you haven't seen Scream 7 yet, obviously be careful of spoilers. Although, to me, I think the most fun are the kills and not who's being killed. And I think those are really great. I think this film has excellent kills. But also, is this a one weekend event? What's Scream's second weekend drop going to look like? It's been pretty consistent for the last few movies. 4, 5, and 6 all dropped around 60% in their second weekend. So let's see how Scream 7 performs. And with Scream 7 going into its second weekend and Wuthering Heights still kicking around, still haunting the moors of the box office, The Bride could have a bit of a problem here. Or maybe The Bride will hurt both those movies. Let's see what the reviews are like. The embargo, I'm seeing it tomorrow morning. The review embargo lifts on Wednesday, which is pretty close to release actually on that one, which is surprising to me. Hoppers, by the way, Disney's lifting the review embargo tomorrow, Monday at noon. Animation's on a roll right now. Woo! And Pixar's last movie, Elio, set the bar pretty low in terms of expectations at just a $20 million opening. Goat opened at around 27. So Hoppers is going to look to open under or over 30 million. That would be I think a healthy opening for the film. So I think Scream 7 with about a 60% drop and I think it's going to be a tight race actually for number one. I'm not sure who's going to be the number one movie actually. If I had to guess, I think my Hoppers review comes out tomorrow. I think Scream 7 will just edge out number one and Hoppers will be number two right behind it though. We'll see. What do you predict for this coming weekend in terms of the rankings? As for the rest of this weekend's top 10, Goat still holding up pretty well. Maybe that's a bad sign for Hoppers. Maybe it's a good sign, right? Are people all animated out? Are they going to want to keep this party going? How do you feel? While audiences continue to love even the smaller events like concert movies, 21 Pilots, and Elvis. Now, I can't speak for the 21 Pilots movie. Did anyone see that? But as I told you last week, I did see Elvis, and that was really fantastic. I would say it's a must-see in theaters, particularly if you have a subscription service. And sure enough, it went wide this weekend and continues to do a healthy, respectable business. It could still also do very well on digital, maybe down the line in streaming. I think it's a must-see. I think I would recommend it for theaters, but I think it would be a real shame if you missed it entirely. It's really good. But while you know what? It's a little bit, I get on tangents, but I want to tell you this. Remember that Peter Jackson documentary where he repaired the film footage from war, and it seemed like it was just happening right now, and it made it infinitely more relatable. I feel like this kind of does that with Elvis and really makes Elvis so relatable and feels like the most he's ever felt like a real person right in front of you. It was a pretty amazing experience. All right, so while audiences double back for older movies, just last weekend's new releases, I Can Only Imagine 2 and How to Make a Killing, suffered the biggest drops in the top 10. Both movies have ridiculously low totals. In fact, it looks like Glen Powell won't even be able to clear 10 million domestic. While Crime 101 looks good by comparison, but not good overall. 40 million domestic, I don't think it's going to be able to hit that. Pretty shocking considering the star power. Again, I'm hoping that Crime 101 is able to find an audience down the line on digital or streaming. Also, you might have seen Zootopia in the headlines again this past week. What's everyone talking about? The fact that it surpassed Minecraft to become the top grossing domestic movie of 2025. It's been helped extraordinarily by its overseas appeal, particularly in Asia. But even in the United States, Zootopia 2 was number one, or North America. And Avatar 3 might have finally fallen out of the top 10, but it did, it's it's so close to 1.5 billion. That's where I predicted it would end, when I did the Wicked math between the two movies, it's the same, which also is fascinating, by the way. So the drop is the same. That's really interesting. How long do you think it's going to take for Disney and James Cameron to make it official what's going to happen next or not happen next for the franchise? And what are you realistically guessing they will decide? I'll play. If I'm asking you to play, I'll do it. My guess is they're going to make just one more movie because they already shot a third of it. So I'm not going to flush that down the drain, right? And, you can't tell Jimmy to keep the budget down. Jimmy's going to spend what Jimmy's going to spend. But I do one more and I tell him, rework the rest of the script to wrap things up, at least for a while. I don't think Avatar can come back for another 5 to 10 years after this. But, that's okay. That's okay. Or are you going to be really sad if that's the case? Moving over to streaming, starting with Nielsen as usual for late January, The Pit. No matter how you feel about The Pit, it's undeniable that it is just a monster hit. A monster hit for HBO Max, no less. They're never able to chart. And look at what they're doing here. I think what's particularly exciting about this show's success is that it's a no frills, no big IP, yearly, old-fashioned show that proves the old ways can still work. You can bet that The Pit is the envy of every other streaming service except maybe Paramount Plus, which, now owns The Pit and HBO, but also, of course, has Taylor Sheridan, or at least they did, so that makes it even more valuable that they just got their hands on The Pit. I've said before that The Pit is the liberal equivalent to Taylor Sheridan's Landman, in particular, although I feel that both shows are kind of more in the middle, although I don't think it's aired yet. The Pit has an ICE episode coming up, and I saw the headlines that they've been asked to try and make it a little more even-handed. I don't think I wonder what it looked like before, because I've seen that episode. So we'll see how the internet reacts. But I think for the most part, both shows can enjoy both liberal and conservative audiences, and that's one of the reasons they're both so successful. Landman, you can see, has dropped a little bit because it had ended its run at this point. All right. Oh, what a good season. It was a rocky season, but it ended so beautifully. I can't wait for Landman season 3. All right, there was a recent study, by the way. Oh, I'm glad I got to loop this in. Did you see this? That apparently today's audiences want male leads who are more in touch with their feelings. And they picked Dr. Robbie, Noah Wiley's character from The Pit, as the ideal male character of today. But you know what I'd argue? Speaking of Landman, I think Billy Bob Thornton's character has a lot of the same qualities. Like, both men might be begrudgingly open to their emotions, but they're also very tough leaders. I think they are both wonderful. And some people I saw in the comments to that article, that study, said that The Mandalorian kind of maybe even started that trend, but unfortunately kind of moved away from that or didn't keep the balance. They didn't do a good job. Oh, newsflash. I can't believe we have to learn this again. Yes, a balance is best. A balance is best. All right. What do you think? All right, so Bridgerton and Stranger Things not only remain massive hits for Netflix, but benefit here on the Nielsen charts, thanks to Nielsen counting all seasons as one. And I'm glad to see The Wrecking Crew was a hit for Prime Video. I loved that movie, and speaking of tough guys in touch with their feelings, I think Jason Momoa and Dave Bautista both definitely fit in that category. That was a very good movie, very surprisingly funny. I got to tell you, Jason Momoa, I think, has really found his space with comedy. And with Fallout, 1 week here from its season 2 finale, it's climbing back onto the overall chart as it starts to enjoy its binge bump. On the originals chart, The Traitors remains a big hit for Peacock. I'm now all in, although it'll be interesting to see how people feel about the show moving away from celebrities, as they just announced for their next 5th season. While Wonder Man benefited from being a binge drop as it was able to chart, something that's been difficult for Disney Plus shows as of late. While A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, which is weekly because it's on HBO and also half-hour episodes, 3 episodes in, yet to chart, right? But this is still pretty low for Wonder Man. This isn't a great number, but at least it's here. Would it have been better for Wonder Man to go weekly, right? And have that weekly conversation, even if it ended up never charting, like A Night of the Seven Kingdoms might never chart, right? I think online conversation has helped A Night of the Seven Kingdoms immensely. But I don't know if Wonder Man would have survived as a week-to-week. I don't think it was written to be a week-to-week. I think people would have dropped out and not seen how... But some people said they did that with A Night of the Seven Kingdoms too, which got progressively better as it went on. Did you drop away from A Night of the Seven Kingdoms? If so, if you dropped out of either of these shows, you missed out. They're both fantastic. But at the end of the day, I do think both of them are relatively small in their popularity compared to the bigger swings in their respective franchises. So putting on your business hat and your fan hat, how do you feel Wonder Man and A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, two fabulous pieces of content, how do you think they ended up performing for their respective franchises? The pluses and the minuses. Over on Netflix for just last week, this was a bit of an off week as these numbers are low across the board. Like America's Next Top Model, this expose might be number one, and it got a lot of attention on social media, by the way. I don't think it went the way Tyra thought it would. But also on that note, I don't think these numbers are enough for Tyra to get the new season or new installment she'd been hoping to get off of this. I think in some ways it was kind of like a cathartic goodbye to America's Next Top Model. And there were so many problems that this show exposed for America's Next Top Model. I think it would be hard to get maybe she could do it online, but I don't think she could get any big established company to take on the risk, especially when you see how it was even worse than anybody ever knew. But wow, it still did almost double the numbers of the new season of The Night Agent, which means that's probably the final season of The Night Agent. They have been developing a season 4 for The Night Agent, but it hasn't been greenlit, and I doubt it will be after these numbers. With movies, Tyler Perry's latest comedy is still number one, while Prometheus hit Netflix. They always get stuff just out of nowhere, but this is pretty solid. Maybe it can help us get David versus Andy. David and Andy. I don't care. I just want David and Andy. Do with them whatever you want. That would be just absolutely wonderful. Then on digital with Apple's charts, after getting spanked by Markiplier's Iron Lung, I think I got Markiplier pronounced right? I think it's like multiplier. That's what it seems to be. So Markiplier. Jason Statham gets a little bit of his dignity back as his movie, at least here, is number one. Maybe he should get a streaming show. The rest of the top 10 here is almost all recent theatrical films, for the most part, as digital really does continue to seriously undermine movie theaters. They're right. The theatrical window. And some of you, I asked you recently, do you go and see Disney movies in theaters because you know it's going to take so long for them to get to digital? And some of you said yes. I think that the theatrical window is really important. It's not like streaming's not giving you other stuff to watch in the meantime. And then Hamnet and Nuremberg. Still going, but The Bone Temple has already dropped out of the top 10. The franchise's only hope now to continue is that Netflix once again blows up its spot when, it's a Sony film, eventually shows up on Netflix in a couple of weeks or a month or so. Are you still interested in this point? 8 years later, 3 with Cillian Murphy? Do you still want to do that? As for this coming weekend, yes, 2 original movies are going to hit theaters. Come on, original movies, with Disney Pixar's Hoppers and Warner Brothers' The Bride. Plus, speaking of Cillian Murphy, the Peaky Blinders movie is going to be going to a handful of theaters. And I do mean handful, as Netflix is not at all giving this one a wide release. I was watching the trailer and I was like, maybe I want to watch this. I think you have to be a fan of the show to know at all what's going on. And also, I got to tell you, the movie didn't look particularly cinematic. It looked very much like a streaming movie. What do you think? Well, on streaming, Netflix has a streaming movie this weekend. So they have War Machine. What? Isn't that a Marvel character? With Alan Ritchson and Dennis Quaid. That should do. Alan Ritchson's very hot on streaming. Also tonight, the SAG Awards, aka the Actor Awards. I don't like that. What do you think of them changing the title? I mean, come on. If you're going to watch the SAG Awards, you know what they are. The Actor Award seems like it's not a real legit thing. And it's a very legit prize because the actors are the biggest voting block of the Academy. So it's a major show. That's also airing on Netflix, right? And it should be pretty interesting because we're in an awards season where there are no frontrunners except for Jessie Buckley, who, by the way, of course, is the star of The Bride. And now that A Night of the Seven Kingdoms is over, what's on HBO tonight? Well, that would be DTF St. Louis. And I've seen the first 4 episodes of this show, and it's absolutely nuts. I can't believe what this show is about. I can't believe where this show goes. But it's a pretty solid mystery. And talk about just a wealth of charisma with this cast. How can you say no to Jason Bateman and David Harbour, no matter what they're doing? I couldn't say no to them. It's weird, though. It's weird. Be really careful who you watch it with. You might want to watch it maybe by yourself. All right, so then on Wednesday, Prime Video adds another detective show to their roster, this time Young Sherlock, while on Thursday, Peacock drops a new season of Ted and Netflix drops The Sexy Vladimir, before they drop The Dinosaurs on Friday. Meanwhile, Outlander starts its final season, season 8, on Starz on Friday as well. And that's this week's Movie Math. What have you been watching? What do you plan to watch? And who are you rooting for tonight at the SAG, aka Actor Awards? Share those thoughts down below, subscribe today, and of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.